Good evening, November Foxtrot, and welcome to the show. Andy is joining us, but he has unfortunately had some slight late-minute technical blunder. So we will see if he will join us imminently. We're joined in the live studio audience by Phil, Kenny Rebel, Call Sign Samurai, and Daniel Guest at the moment. Hello. Welcome, evening. We're going to be chatting about airsoft myths and various legends and sort of bits and pieces tonight, ranging from all the classics of, firstly, UCARA license. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about, bits and pieces in terms of dual creep. We're going to be talking about all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. So if you have any myths or legends that you would like to throw into the chat, then please feel free to do so. If you have a specific question in mind, then please feel free to put it in the chat and put a little cue at the beginning. It'll just help us find that as it comes in. I don't know if Andy's joining us yet or not. Hi, Landlove Challenge. Welcome. I am featuring a little sneak preview here. This is one of our new t-shirts that we are in the process of having made at the moment, which is this is the website Grunge, which we may come up with a better name for, but that's what we're going with at the moment. But we have a few others in progress as well. We're just kind of in a little bit of base testing just with some of the designs at the moment. We've got a whole bunch of stuff kind of sorted and arranged, but it's just a case of just sort of fine tuning to make sure that we are 100% tip top happy. So hopefully we'll get that sorted soon. Hi James, welcome to the show. Andy, I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's coming yet or not. We're waiting to see. So let's talk about let's dive right in. Let's talk about the first myth / legend regarding UCARA. So the UCARA license. So if you are not aware, firstly, UCARA is not a license, it is a defence. So under the Violent Crime and Reduction Act, which was then rolled into a different act at a later date, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically in the UK, there is something called the Violent Crime and Reduction Act, which was intended to remove and reduce sort of violent crimes from the UK with the intention of kind of reducing what people have access to with relation to violent weapons, offensive weapons and things like that. So it covers, for example, various aspects on knives. It talks about things like knuckle dusters and batons and stuff like that. But airsoft and replica firearms kind of falls into this weird category where obviously they're trying to reduce the amount of replica firearms in circulation, because ultimately, replica firearms, for all intents and purposes, they are designed to be replicas of real firearms, and therefore they can be used for nefarious purposes. Andy has sent me a message that says, fuck's sake, lol. So, yes, we'll see how it goes. He is on his way. Violent Crime Reduction Act, reducing the amount of replica firearms that that could be out there. But unfortunately, airsoft, we somewhat rely on replica firearms. You've also got things like the film industry, film production, theatre, all of that. There's reenactments, and there's various kind of groups and organisations that, they ultimately do need a replica. And this is why you will have seen, if you grew up in the UK, a transition from children's toys in at least the 36 years that I've been alive. Because when I was younger, you used to be able to quite easily go and buy like a toy AK or an MP5, which was almost, maybe not one-to-one scale, but, we're talking pretty replica-ish for a children's toy. But that's massively changed now. So you've got things that are bright blue. You've obviously got the coloured tips and things on the end. But basically, you are allowed to have a replica in the UK as long as you are able to kind of provide a valid defence for owning that. So, for example, if you are a reenactor or anything like that, you can obviously provide that defence. And airsoft is a valid defence for having a replica firearm. Now, the challenge is, that's all good and well, you could be an airsofter, but how do you prove that you're an airsofter? And this is the challenge that came in with a number of shops and retail outlets and things like that, and sort of airsoft sites. So they kind of got together as this kind of little federation of people. They've basically put together something called the UCARA system, which is the United Kingdom Airsoft Retailers Association. So that's what UCARA stands for. And then they basically maintain an active database of active players. So Andy's gone completely. So the idea is that you register. So you basically fulfill the requirements of UCARA in that instance. So, for example, in the UK, we have to play 3 games not within 3 months. That then allows you to, with a site, basically register as an active airsoft player. But it is a defence. So there are lots of other ways of doing it, but the UCARA process is basically just a methodology by which shops can easily check. Because without that, we have no national registration or anything like that. So there's no other way really, other than you being in a shop going, look at my Instagram. I've been airsofting at all these different places. It's a challenge, and that's why it was set up. You've got alternatives like your CASA. I believe that's still going. That's basically what the UCARA system is. The UCARA is not a defence. It is not a license. It's not a license. It's a defence. I'll be honest with you. I had not anticipated talking this long without having Andy on the stream. So I assume he is coming back in hopefully very shortly. In the meantime, I'll talk about before I talk about too many other myths and legends and bits and pieces like that. We did our Great Tommy Sleep Out at the weekend, so thank you to everybody who donated and supported us with that. It was a little bit of a last-minute organisation thing, but it was a great opportunity just to basically get out into the woods and have a sit down, have a catch-up, had a little fire, a little bit of food. Myself, I was quite ill. I'm still on the kind of the rebound from the tonsillitis, I think, and I've sort of managed to pick up a cold now on top of that. I decided to take my thanks, Call Sign Samurai. I look good and feels great. I mean, I can make myself smaller. I don't know. Maybe it's marginally smaller. There you go. Basically, I took my Ratnik bivvy, which is a small bivvy bag, hooped bivvy bag system made for the Russian military. It's in I believe, the EMR camo. And basically, I just woke up at about 2 o'clock in the morning having an absolute panic attack. I couldn't breathe because of just how congested I was. And then I was also constrained in this. I'll go back. I was also constrained in this. Basically, the bivvy bag systems are like little coffins. They are incredibly tight. They are not designed for providing lots of extra space and comfort. And I just had to get out there. I was absolutely having a claustrophobic attack. So I ended up, unfortunately, sleeping in the car. I didn't sleep very comfortably. I hadn't planned to sleep in the car for this event, and basically just crawled up in my back seat in a ball and slept like that for the next 6 hours. So yeah, I feel I still slummed it, albeit maybe not quite as much as I kind of hoped to do. But I'm in two minds. I don't know whether to sell the Ratnik bivvy at this point. It's a good bit of kit. I really like it. But it is a challenge. It is quite a claustrophobic system. So if you are looking at hooped bivvy tents or anything like that, then I would highly recommend that you try and speak to somebody that has one that you could potentially try out just before you go and buy one, because I think it's a bit of a Marmite situation, to be honest with you. Personally, I like an open bivvy. No problem with an open bivvy. The only challenge I have with those is the thought of a slug crawling across my face in the middle of the night, which on the site that we were at, there's a very high probability of happening, which it just grosses me out, not going to lie. I don't think anybody really likes a cold, wet slug crawling across their face in the middle of the night, but maybe you do. I don't know. Pegasus was with us as well. Since the weekend, I've been sick as a dog, so I apologise if I've made everybody else ill as well. But hopefully that wasn't the case. I really hope Andy's going to join us soon, because otherwise this is going to be a very protracted podcast. Right. Let's talk about some myths. Might as well start talking about them. So the first one that I wanted to bring up is feet per second equals performance. So the myth for this is that higher FPS always means a better airsoft gun. If you have an airsoft gun that's 350 feet per second versus an airsoft gun that's 450 feet per second, which obviously bear in mind the constraints of the rules and regulations of the country or state that you're playing in. It is simply not the case. There are so many things that affect firstly, what you define as a good airsoft gun. So, for example, if we are talking about the sheer ability to hit a target downrange at, say, sort of 60 meters, FPS is not the only thing that you need to bear in mind. Things like your hop up, just the air efficiency of your rifle. You could have a good tight barrel. There's a lot of moving parts, funnily enough, within an airsoft gun that basically affect the performance of that system. So, for example, I know I saw this when I was sort of coming up through from my starting double eagle gun from Just BB Guns and things like that. But basically, you look out there and people go, oh, I've got this rifle. It's a TM, only shoots sort of 280 FPS, but it'll be pretty accurate with that, and that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad or inaccurate or anything like that. The only difference being is that obviously with FPS, generally if there's a higher wind pattern on site at the time, if you've got a crosswind, firing a heavy BB is going to basically maintain the flight pattern of that BB better than if you're firing a lighter BB, by the pure physics of the fact that a smaller, lighter object is going to be a lot more susceptible to wind and any sort of other opposing forces on it. So, for example, if you're firing a 0.12 gram BB, you could get a massive deflection off to the left with a crosswind that's running right to left, whereas a heavier BB is less susceptible to that, which with the FPS and kind of how that works, that's not purely the case. The main thing, as Pegasus is kind of alluding to in his message there, his riff is locked to one joule. There's no point chasing the 0.13. If everyone looks at their rifle in terms of joules and forgets about FPS and everything like that, then making sure that you're using the appropriate ammo for the system and speed and everything like that you're trying to achieve, then that is the Shangri-La in terms of getting what you need. So if you're not sure about FPS or your what joules are or what joule creeps, we actually have an article on our website, which if you jump onto novemberfoxtrot.co.uk, it's basically the first thing that pops up. It's very, very visible on the screen, but you can also search for it as well in our search bar, which is FPS versus joules and joule creep. And there is a handy downloadable section as well in our Intel, but basically it's a page that kind of talks about the mathematics behind FPS and the joules and the law in the UK with the Firearms Act, the Policing and Crimes Act, and the Violent Crime Reduction Act, as well as a handy conversion chart. So if you are... And he says, fucking laptops. You do well, Andy. Come on, mate. You can do this. You can jump on. But there's a handy conversion chart on there as well. So basically you can jump on there and you can kind of get a steer as to, with the various BB weight and your FPS, kind of where you're sitting in relation to the UK law, at least, and what is ultimately a very handy little graph. So thank you, Andy. It's very handy. Just get your laptop sorted out. Stop commenting. The next myth that we are going to talk about is ultimately full auto is always the best option. So the myth on this one is that full auto fire is the most effective way to play. Now, there is an argument that full auto is handy. So, if you're playing a skirmish day, for example, having the ability to pre-fire around corners, if you're just running around with a box mag on full auto, constantly firing as you're running around, then ultimately, yes, you are more likely to effectively hit someone. You're more likely to also overkill and team kill. But for all intents and purposes, I think we could all agree that you would likely get more kills. But is that ultimately the best option? Probably not. I think fundamentally, if you are having to run a sort of spray and pray game, then you're just a bit of a bad airsofter, to be perfectly honest with you. Just get better. Controlled semi-auto shots are going to potentially be more accurate. So if you're kind of going down the route of accuracy, then that's going to give you a little bit better than just like, just lacing everything up. You're also, it depends on the type of event you're going to. Again, skirmishes are going to be very different to a MilSim. And even within the MilSim community of events, where you've got things like real cap events now as well, you're going to be absolutely screaming through your ammo. So again, full auto with a 32 round mag or anything like that, then you're not going to be full autoing for very long. So ultimately, I don't think that full auto is probably the better option on that front. Most sites actually also pretty much ban full auto now. A lot of events I've been to have very heavily restricted the use of full auto. It's generally only kind of allowed for support weapons or anything like that. So, yeah. Andy, I really could do with you jumping on, mate, if you can, because this is going to be a terrible podcast otherwise. Please. Right, next up, sniper rifles are the most powerful. So the myth that airsoft sniper rifles are the most powerful and accurate than other guns. So, realistically, are they? No. In short, a sniper rifle out of the box. Thanks, Pegasus. You've got this, Mike. A sniper rifle out of the box is fundamentally, it's a challenging one because it depends on what rifle that you get out of the box to start with. So if you're comparing, a high price point rifle against another high price point rifle, potentially, out of the box, a sniper rifle might marginally be better just on the basis if it's a bolt action system and everything like that. If it's a particularly expensive rifle, it might have already had some tune-ups and bits and pieces like that. But ultimately, a sniper rifle, the main advantage with a sniper rifle is, it almost goes back to the FPS again. So, for example, in the UK, a sniper rifle can go up to the limit of, I think it's between sort of 1.9 joules and 2 joules. Let me just dig it out quickly because that will explain it. This was very well planned, as you can tell. All right, okay, so 2.5 joule, up to 2.5 joules. Here he is, sort of.
On my phone while I'm trying to.
You're doing well.
Oh, it's saying that everything's unplugged, but it's not. So, but I'm here.
Right. Okay. Andy, what are your thoughts on sniper rifles versus other rifles being better out of the box or whatever? Sniper rifles are the most powerful.
Obviously, it all depends on the brand. I think some come out the box and they are a little bit more powerful just because of the mechanics of them. I think. And then it's hard, that one. They obviously are going to be more overpowered than what an AEG will be, just because of what it is. I'd say yes and no. Depending.
I mean, fundamentally, if we bring it back to first principles, the myth states that sniper rifles are the most powerful. Fundamentally, it depends on what we're regarding in terms of powerful. If we're just purely looking at power, then obviously, yes, you can have a higher joule output in the UK against non-sniper rifle platforms. So if you're talking like an assault rifle type thing, which is able to fire sort of more than one BB consecutively. If you're talking for CQB ability to take out opponents, then obviously a sniper rifle is not going to be the most powerful.
No.
You're potentially talking a smaller platform that you can run around and blitz through, and you don't need that increased range and everything like that. Accuracy, I've seen sniper rifle platforms, and we've all seen them because there's videos of them there online where people were shooting in high winds, and they've got a great distance, but they're still curving off to the left or the right, which ultimately an AEG or a gas blowback rifle or something like that that's firing a heavier BB for whatever purposes could maybe achieve differently. So I don't know. I don't think we can really properly debunk that myth, but it is
I mean, unless we went out and bought a sniper rifle, for example.
You'd have to buy an awful lot of them and then work out the averages, and then which we don't have the budget for.
No.
Right, so the next one, kind of following along the same lines, is heavier BBs increase FPS. So the myth that using a heavier BB will make your airsoft gun shoot at a higher FPS, that is just purely bollocks. In short, the FPS, so your rifle will shoot at a power of some amount, so be that a joule or whatever it's kind of set to. The mathematics of joules and the speed at which it fires is that ultimately F equals ma, where you have the force equals the mass times acceleration. So therefore, if you've got effectively the same acceleration, then your mass increasing will basically reduce the output force of your rifle. So your BB will actually travel slower theoretically with a heavier BB. Now, I appreciate that Pegasus is probably going to be sitting there furiously typing away and pointing out the fact that there's obviously things like dual creeps and bits and pieces like that. But fundamentally, just on a bare bones basics, if you're comparing a 0.2 gram BB against a 0.45 gram BB, and you're looking at a constant joule output of, say, 1 joule, then a 0.2 gram BB will convert to approximately 330 FPS, whereas a 0.45 BB will, at that kind of joule output, will be in the region of 200 to 250. So ultimately, no. Spanner alert, dual creep. I know there is such a thing as dual creep, but I don't know enough about the mechanics behind it to accurately say yay or nay on that one. But I do think that 0.2s or anything like that against 0.45, I believe that 0.2 will travel faster. So, yeah. How about you, Andy? Have you got any myths or legends or anything like that you want to bring up? You've obviously been doing an awful lot of marshalling in your time. I must have heard some absolute classics.
There's so many. If a pyro goes off and it's not overly loud, it doesn't count as a kill. is quite a good one. That's so if it kind of just does like a little shitty pop.
Yeah.
If you don't really hear it, it doesn't cast as a kill. And you're like, well, it doesn't matter how small the pop is. like it's right there. Yeah. If it pops in front of your feet, if someone throws a BFG at your feet and it makes a little bit of a sound, then take it as a hit. Don't.
Assuming it's probably as long as it's louder than the BFG hitting the ground itself.
Yeah.
And actually warranting the point of a kill.
If it doesn't go off, then that's it. It's a dud. But if it does go off and does just like a little pop, then you're still hitting something, aren't you? It's still going off.
So one of the kind of the urban legends that I want to share about is an event that I played a long time ago now. This was at the depot with Ambush Adventures in Aldershot, and there was a player that was basically wearing full ballistic plates, full helmet, everything like that, and decided to, halfway through the event, class themselves as not a juggernaut, but basically saying, well, I'm wearing full real steel body armor, which means that I get extra protection from BBs versus other players, which is effectively a one shot and you're out. And I just couldn't believe the gall of this. And I've subsequently seen various sites kind of have this as a rule set whereby it's kind of flagging that this is not an acceptable way to play. It is fundamentally, if you are playing airsoft, you are playing airsoft. There are no advantages for wearing real steel or the like. So,
I feel if you're just wearing a plate carrier that's fully armored, Like that doesn't make you invulnerable, does it? It's
No, I mean, you obviously see juggernauts and things like that at different events, which are kind of, they're effectively NPC in-game characters at that point, aren't they? Which, they will have their own special rule sets and things like that. So appreciate that, but just don't rock up to an event thinking, oh yeah, it's fine, it's not a problem. I mean, I've seen events which players have rocked up with the shields, big kind of Captain America style shields or ballistic shields or anything like that. And the game organizer's like, well, we don't operate a shield policy. So if you get hit on the shield, that's just you being hit as if you would be if you're a player.
I mean, shields are one that's always causes issues, I think. And like, especially from a martial point of view, from me, I think it should always be the best way to do it with a shield is that it's like if a BB's hitting it, then you're immune. But if like a grenade goes off your feet, in real life, a shield is not going to defend you from a grenade if it doesn't cover you. Like if it's just like a short little body one. Your legs are still going to get blown away from you. Your face is still probably going to get smushed. You ain't going to have a good day. But I don't think sites tend to play that, and they just go, "Oh no, we just don't bother with shields."
See, I think that's a shame, and this is kind of diving off on a tangent, but I like a shield in an event. Now, not to say that obviously you can't defeat a shield. And I don't think that anyone that's carrying a shield should basically be able to fire. You are effectively a moving barricade at that point. And I think that there's sort of special rule sets and things that need to be taken into account and in play with that. But I just like events which you're dealing with something that's just a little bit different. And I always think that sort of ballistic shields and things add something to that. Riot shields, maybe not so much because they are riot shields. I feel that if you're going to play with a shield, it has to be something designed to be ballistic rather than, a police riot shield, which is designed to just kind of deal with minor projectiles.
I think the hard thing is with shields is every site plays them differently. Like I've been to a couple of sites where like you said, they're like, you're more than welcome to go out onto the field with a shield, but as soon as your shield gets hit, that's classed as you getting hit. And you're like, okay, well then what's the point of having the shield? Because you're actually just making yourself a bigger target. And then some sites have been like, right, well BBs you can stop all day long unless it like hits you in the leg or like on your physical body. But grenades still kill you if they fall in front or fall behind. And then there's other sites that are like, it stops grenades, it stops BBs. You're basically just immune to everything unless the grenade falls behind you. And you think, well, that's a bit much, isn't it? I think if every site kind of stuck to a certain set of rules, I think it would work a lot better and people would be more interested in playing with it, like playing with shields and using them.
I mean, I think the biggest challenge is ultimately you get players that it's new, it's exciting, it's like, oh yeah, I've got this thing, I can do these weird, wonderful things, and then they start, pushing the boundaries with it, and people don't really fully understand what's going on, and it just becomes a challenge. So, I think if there was a universal set of rules with it, but ultimately, using pyro to defeat a shield, I think is a perfectly valid way of doing it. It's one of the sort of the few barricades in a game that I would argue that because it is ultimately a ballistic shield as opposed to a solid wall or anything like that. We're getting a full tour of your house at the moment, Andy. I feel like we're.
I'm still trying to sort out my laptop because holding this is getting a bit old, like very quickly, and it doesn't look particularly good. So
No, that's fine.
And I can't see anyone's comments. I can't see anything. I can just see you and my ugly mug just floating around.
That's fair.
But there you go.
There we go.
And now I'm going to let the dog in.
The other thing with ballistic shields as well is that ultimately you need to have a fairly decent kind of group of people around you that are able to utilize you as a defensive position. Ultimately, if you're just walking down a corridor with a shield and you've got no, other players around you that can basically provide that covering fire, it's completely pointless because ultimately your legs will be exposed, your head potentially is going to be exposed if you've got no ability to fight back. So it's kind of a combination of things at that point. But John Smith, good evening. He said, "I made it at last." Welcome in. Welcome.
So have I.
I'm going to refer back to Pegasus as well. So Pegasus has very helpfully simplified dual creep for us. So dual creep simplified. The BB only accelerates while it's in the barrel. A heavier BB will spend more time in the barrel, thus letting it achieve a higher top speed. I feel that this is a science thing we need to do at some point. It's going to be a case of doing some mathematics and some various science.
We've got a guest.
We do. Hello. All right, here's a slightly controversial one because I know that we kind of went through this list a little bit at the weekend, but all BBs are the same. All BBs are the same.
You said you wasn't going to do this one.
No, I said I was going to do this one because I think it's good. So the myth is that any brand of BBs will work fine in any airsoft gun.
Oh, crap. At the end of the day, that is complete fiction.
So I don't know exactly how true this is, but I am of the understanding that there's only actually equivalently of like 3 to maybe 5 manufacturers of airsoft BBs in the world. So all these various BBs and everything like that, as far as I understand, all effectively come from the same place. Albeit with obviously different specifications and the like. So it's the equivalent of going to Marks and Spencer's and you basically buy the same food that's made in the same factory that you can also get in Aldi, albeit with a different specification and a different label on it. Mm-hmm. So Pegasus says, "I'd like to see you run the yellow BB for a day and get back to me."
Yeah, the TM ones that you get free in the in the box.
Yeah. So there's obviously a number of differences with BBs. So, for example, the main one I think that everyone kind of fully appreciates is the weight. Weights of BBs are generally done by increasing kind of the metallic powders and things that you can include within the mix of the plastic within the BB. So, for example, a 0.12 gram BB, which super light, fly around, basically made out of helium, are going to have, a heck of a lot less density than that of, your likes of your specialist sniper BBs.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of the main difference there. You can also get differences in terms of polishing, production, quality, value, the mix themselves. So, for example, if you compare BBs that if you take 2 different brands and you fire them at a solid plate, you'll likely get potentially one shatter, or one might not shatter, and that's again to do with the mix and the components and kind of how that BB is specified, basically. And then you do get sort of various diameter changes as well. So, for example, not all 6mm BBs will be 6mm. There'll be sort of various tolerances on that as well. I don't know. I mean, you can get 8mm BBs now and sort of various. I know that some of the kind of the shotgun Mosscart type shells fire an 8mm BB instead of a 6mm. Which I don't know. I don't know how that works on events actually from an insurance point of view. But
what do you mean from?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the insurance is for, I guess, for a 6mm system or a 6mm BB. I don't know if it differentiates between an 8mm. I mean, if you rocked up and you've got an airsoft gun that fires a 100mm BB, whilst complying, obviously, with the rules and regulations,
yeah,
if you're firing something like that,
yeah. Well, a lot of companies, like a lot of insurance companies, basically say that especially in the UK, that it has to be a 6mm BB, which is why the new Novridge ones, those 8mm ones, what they call they're full thrust or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is very hard to use over in the UK, just because but also as well, our law, I think, states that it needs to be a 6mm BB. So you shooting a tennis ball at someone from a 50 cal, I'm not sure how. Not sure how
within the same FPS and dual capacities, though. You know, obviously not. We're not talking about firing these things at 450 FPS because that's obviously quite a substantial dual output. And no, Drew, I don't want big balls in my face, but it'd just be funny.
Mike loves a bit of big balls in his face.
Yeah, big beach ball cannon. So yeah, obviously you kind of get the variations in diameters as well. So yeah, and then also there's obviously a massive difference between bio BBs and non-bio BBs, which is a point of contention between Andy and I. So bio BBs are currently deemed to be the saving grace of airsoft. You know, they are basically intended to be a much better option for the environment. But unfortunately, there's an awful lot of kind of counter evidence that's been done, which kind of evidenced the fact that a lot of these BBs are not fully biodegradable. They are effectively sort of systems that will degrade slower, or I guess a little bit quicker. But you know, it's almost like they break apart, but then they don't degrade further than that in some instances.
Yeah.
I do feel like there should be a BB out there that over time just degrades and then releases a seed. I feel that would be entertaining.
Releases a seed?
Yeah. So we actually class ourselves as planters. It's not, you know, we're gardeners at that point. Oh, I've got two Andy Bobs now.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, stop. There you go.
Oh.
Right, that's really hard audio. Are you on the audio? Yes, we can hear you. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, there you go. Drew said if they had a woodland flower seeds, it'll be great, wouldn't it? I mean, you think about the amount of plastic that we effectively shed over the ground with airsoft. It is ultimately it's probably one of the most polluting activities I think I can probably think of, because ultimately it's just taking handfuls of plastic and just go, there you go, environment, have that.
I mean, yeah, like all plastics degrade over time. It's just so
does nuclear material, exactly. But it's just how long it takes to happen.
Exactly, everything degrades over time, like my sanity and my computers and things. But instead of like 50,000 years, the current bio BBs, I think they still need to be like 5 meters underground. They need to be like under pressure, and it still takes like 25,000 years, which I suppose is better than 50,000. But you can't have a fully biodegradable, what most people would class as a biodegradable BB. I don't think, because they're not strong enough. You have to have that density.
So I think you can, but I don't think we're there yet. I think that's the challenge. I think ultimately, you know, if you look at like the likes of Lego, for example, who I know have done an awful lot of research into bioplastics and sort of various bits and pieces. I mean, I'm pretty certain, I'm going to have to double check this, but I'm pretty certain that there was a campaign at one point where all of the green pieces of Lego that were used for sort of plants and everything like that were basically derived from sort of biological plastic kind of approaches and stuff like that. And Lego, if you are watching, then probably the best company out there to switch from just making Lego to making Lego and BBs, because ultimately their manufacturing processes must surely be in place that they could just make a load of BBs. And if they could crack that bio element, then So Pega says most bio BBs on the market still require heat and compression to degrade. Nearly all the BBs sites on the surface are achieving neither. And that's the thing, but we can do better as a sport, as a hobby, or whatever you want to call it. Surely there is an alternative. I don't know, make them out of bone or something like that. I don't know. Well, like crushed chicken bones. Like we could probably make that into some sort of like dense thing or something. I don't know.
It's a bit of salmonella when it gets stuck in your lip.
Yeah. How do you get salmonella? I got hit with a BB.
You say that, like bones don't biodegrade. So you say that. That's
well, they do over time. And also, I'm pretty certain that little
dinosaurs. That's all I'm saying.
No, because they're petrified. They're slightly different.
but so in like 25 million years, when they're digging
they'll be petrified BBs.
Yeah, they'll be like finding petrified BBs. So that's.
I think the difference is the fact that obviously plastics are breaking down and entering, the bloodstream of us. So we're all sitting there eating microplastics and stuff. So there must be better alternatives out there.
But
that's all I'm saying.
That's from fish. There's not many sites where you go and play and then the cows come along and eat them and then you eat the cow.
No, that is a thing. There are microplastics in the entire food chain at this point.
Yeah,
it's not just fish.
No, but what I'm saying, that's got nothing to do with airsofters.
No, but throwing plastic into the environment is definitely adding to that, isn't it? Let's be fair.
As I said before, I will move.
Drew says I'm getting the world is flat vibe from Andy.
I mean, I know that there's plastics. I deal with them all the time. Plastics. What I'm saying is, there's not many airsoft sites that would ultimately put those plastic particles into what we eat. Right? There's not many sites that have dairy or meat cows roaming around afterwards.
You've got deers and things running around, and you're still. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I might have a chat with because obviously I'm in engineering. I might have a chat with some SI companies to see what they would class if they had a site that was kind of like comprised of woodland full of BBs, whether that would be classed as a contaminated material. Because ultimately, if you fill a site with a load of plastic, it's very hard to get that out easily.
Yeah,
and I do wonder if it would be classed as contaminated material.
I don't know, but they keep building over all of the decent airsoft sites, so it can't be that much of a problem.
True.
So, do you know what?
But that's because a lot of the decent airsoft sites are already full of other things like asbestos and lead and
blood, sweat, tears, and chemicals that.
Right. So next myth that I want to talk about is suppressors. So suppressors make airsoft guns quieter.
They can.
So the idea of this is that if you have a silencer or a suppressor on an airsoft gun, like the movies, you will take your gun from a loud bang to a mere.
They can do.
I know they can do.
It all depends on what you're.
There are two specific examples that I wanted to bring up. So a P90 is one of a few rifles that or like AEGs that I've seen where the application of a suppressor genuinely makes a difference. Now, it doesn't make it dead quiet. We're not talking like you're going to be running around like blimmin' Spec Ops 6, like, Delta mode. I'm so stealthy, gone quiet, gone dark, etc. Some of those words in that order. I was trying to make it sound cool, but don't think it really worked out. Yeah. But the P90 is definitely one of the systems where I've seen the use of a TM Mark 26 suppressor. If you put that on a P90, it genuinely has a good effect. It definitely dulls that down. And also the Mark 26. You look at the number of these rifles or these pistols which are used by snipers because of how quiet they are, their range, their efficiency, and everything like that. They are just absolutely wicked. Hi Barry, welcome to the stream.
There's you can do it with HPA as well. There's a lot of the way the mechanics work of airsoft weapons in general is that the noise isn't actually there's not a lot of noise coming out the front. It's like the gears, the piston coming backwards and forwards, like the gears turning, the trigger being pulled, like all of that on an AG. On a gas, you've got that heavy bolt slamming forward, so you could have it quite quiet in front of you, but literally a couple of centimeters back, you've got this solid metal bolt flying backwards and forwards on a high pressure spring. Whereas with an HPA, you don't have hardly any of that. You're putting air almost directly onto the BB. Do you remember that lad? I've forgotten his name. The one that had that AK, that HPA AK.
Gustavus or something like that from Octo. That was, Andy, you've frozen in a very awkward pose. I assume it's you that's frozen and not me. There he goes, he's back. No, there he is. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that was absolutely wicked. That AK was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that was HPA, and that was silent, wasn't it? Like he fired it next to you, and you could not hear a thing. But then when he took that big, because he had that big canned suppressor on the front, and you took that off, and you actually heard a bit of a pop coming out the end of the barrel. Whereas with the suppressor, it completely got rid of that, didn't it? So that's always my proof of suppressors can work in the right situation.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to make your airsoft gun quieter, there is obviously a number of ways that you can disguise that as well. So shouting whilst firing will often disguise the sound of your airsoft gun. They won't hear you firing, they'll just hear you shouting. Much the same as the tactical Velcro opening.
Yeah.
But non-blowbacks as well. Like, I mean, I think that's with HPA and some of the non-blowback systems, anything like that, the less moving parts and things that you've got going on are definitely going to have a massive impact on that.
Because you're not going to be ultimately like really silent if you phone a Daytona kit in your in your gas weapon.
No,
that's the whole point of having that system in there. So they can work, but most of the time they're just there for like the look of it. What a lot of people now do though is just take the front cap off and make it even louder. So that
does seem to be the way things are going. It's almost like we've kind of gone down the opposite now. It's not so much I want a quieter rifle. I want to put the fear of God into people that when I shoot them, they think it's, a clap of thunder.
But that's why I've got the sound hog on this. Because when that goes off, literally people start ducking. Right? And that's the whole point of it. I want that. I want the M249 to basically sound like a freight train coming through your house.
Yeah.
Because that's half of it as well, isn't it? Like when you're shooting at something and you're hitting, like if you know there's a target and you're meant to be suppressing them, if you've got a wooden stake there and then a bit of corrugated iron in front of them, you're not going to sit there shooting the wood, are you? Going do 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 do. You're going to be aiming at that corrugated iron. You are trying to be as loud as possible.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. I mean, we've kind of talked about the intimidation factor of airsoft, but sometimes it is that if you want to keep someone's head down, you don't want to have the BBs that you're firing and landing on a nice soft object that they don't really pick up that they're being shot at. You want to put you want to just constantly remind them that as soon as they pop their head up, they've got 2 or 3 rounds coming in a second that are going to want them to make their head put back down again.
Yeah.
So,
but then
there's obviously the grenade launcher.
Yeah, you've always got the rule of cool, though, haven't you?
Yes. I mean, Call Sign Samurai said it's the look cool factor, and I do like a suppressor on there.
Have you shown them your new suppressor?
I haven't, but I have a sneaky.
Is it on? Is the suppressor on?
I haven't put the suppressor on there yet. This is something I wasn't actively going to make a point of, but I can try and phrase this in a way for the show. So a myth I would like to share is that PayPal bioprotection is not always going to give you bioprotection, as it turns out. I've had some problems. I've been buying some stuff from a shop called 6mm Airsoft, which is based across the globe.
In Hong Kong.
I've had numerous problems with the order, to be honest with you. Huh?
Is it Hong Kong or is it Taiwan?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it is, but I've had numerous problems with the order. I have followed the procedures for the return of said order, which have become protracted now past the PayPal 30 days terms and conditions. So, top tip, basically, if you buy something with PayPal and there is a problem with that order, don't, for the life of anything, just wait until you kind of get frustrated enough with the shop to lodge it with PayPal as a claim. Do it straight away, because if there is a problem with your order, PayPal will not acknowledge it if it is after 30 days. So to give you an example, I've ordered something from 6mm Airsoft. It has arrived. It is completely different from what I ordered. I went through the return procedure with the shop to say, look, you've sent the wrong thing. I'd like to return it. They have been stringing me along now for over 30 days. Now I'm sort of working on the principle of I'm trying to amicably resolve this. I don't need to lodge a claim, but I've got the PayPal bioprotection there if I need it. Turns out that PayPal bioprotection literally only doesn't matter if you're following the shop's return procedure or anything like that. Because I haven't logged it with PayPal, they don't give a shit. That's it. That's it. It's completely gone out of their minds. So fortunately, I do have bioprotection with my Chase card as well. So I've now lodged a claim with them instead. Lovely. Which is now both against PayPal and 6mm Airsoft. So we'll see how that goes.
And if that doesn't work, Mike's just going to be sending his arse picture.
No, I won't. No, I won't. No, I won't, because it's, ultimately, for whatever reason it has happened, but I would just warn if you have a problem with something and you potentially going to be relying on the PayPal protection, log the claim as quick as you can. Don't wait and wait for it to be amicable and sort it out, because I get the impression that I have been in this particular instance strung along for 30 days to get me out of that position, and now I can't do anything with PayPal. So fortunately, I'm tenacious enough to want to see justice, to deal with it. But
hashtag justice.
6mm Airsoft is a great site. It's got lots of things on there, but I personally have found the customer service to be severely lacking, and I'm happy to go into that off air if anybody would like to have the half-hour version of this story. Then please feel free to contact me. But
see, I've never had a problem with. I've ordered a lot of stuff off of 6mm.
Well, right, okay. Now you've wound me up. So basically, they've said, oh no, that's fine. You can return the item, and we'll send you the one that you want, but you have to order something else from us. So they basically want me to cover the postage for them to send me out of the replacement thing that they've sent the wrong one for.
Right. Okay.
They're meant to have sent me a shipping label, because their returns process is basically, we'll send you a shipping label for you to send it back to us. Mm-hmm. So I've been asking for this shipping label. I got told it was being sent, and then received an email to come back and basically say, oh, no, are you not happy? Can you not just accept what we've sent you? It's like, no, because it's completely different. Mm-hmm. And just the communication has just been absolutely terrible, basically. So, yeah, I don't think they are very good. I would highly recommend, if anyone, steer away from 6mm Airsoft, in my opinion. from my experience. But hey ho.
Yeah. Whereas I'm the opposite. I've literally never had a problem with them. I've always got what I've ordered, and it just takes a long time.
Well, good for you.
Just buy stuff on them and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So yeah, PayPal terms and conditions. Make sure you log a claim basically as soon as possible.
That's a myth debunked right there.
Here we go. AEGs don't need maintenance. So any rifle platform needs to be maintained. Mm-hmm. Do not leave your rifle full of crap, full of gunk. Barrel cleaning is an absolute minimum. If you don't know what else you're doing, just be careful. Obviously, you don't start ramming the rod into the hop-up system and everything like that and fucking up your inner barrel and things. But, I mean, you obviously get your rifle serviced. I don't generally tend to because I don't field them enough to really warrant that happening.
These two get sent away at the beginning of each year, even if they've only been used once or twice for the year. And it'll clean all the gears, put all new oil on them, grease on them, just make sure everything's all working, especially because both of them have got electronic triggers. So what happens is, especially in like damp weather, when the electronic system plates touch each other, they can arc in the damp, and it can start wearing the plate, and you don't get a good connection because you get a build up of shit basically that stops the connectivity. So it will take that apart, give them a little clean, give them and I mean a service for these two costs me about 25 quid, and he has them for a couple of days and gets them done. Moving over to like the gas, like the MWS system and the AKM, that's quite easy to do pretty much on your own. I've got into the habit of, if I use it for a game, when I come home, either that evening or like that within a couple of days, it'll all be stripped out. I'll take all the old grease off just in case it's picked any dust up out in the game zone, and then just reapply a little bit more grease. But that could be me just being a bit OTT. But the way I look at it is, I've spent thousands of pounds on all these weapons. The last thing I want to do is have them pick it up, go out to the field, and it not work.
I've just been advised that there is another 6mm airsoft in Staffordshire, and that is not who I'm talking about. This is 6mm airsoft, so it is 6mm airsoft. So www.6mm.com. Avoid them.
We've never used 6mm airsoft.
No, 6mm airsoft. 6mm airsoft. I'm going to give a raving review of. Never even been there. Probably the best. One of the best places that you can go to. There you go. Absolutely nothing to do with their awful named counterpart.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, one of the first things I would say is that with any maintenance duty, it's important to understand the bare bones basics of how your rifle works, because ultimately, if you've got a problem in the field, you can have one of two approaches. One, you can try and fix it, or two, you can go home for the day. And it's going to be frustrating for you if the latter. Or three, ask someone else.
No, three.
Well, you can. Yeah, you can have a backup. You can have a backup, but even still, I mean, for example, Rift. I took my PDW to Rift. You remember it just been like first time I've ever got it out the box, or whatever, since it had been upgrading, etc. Got to have a play around with it. Fucking caught fire. And it was, it was handy to know, right, okay, something's gone wrong here. This is a problem, etc. And I kind of understood the basics of how that was happening, so that I didn't just plug in a battery in and just carry on going, which is what I could have done. I actually managed to set the MOSFET on fire, basically, and melted it. Yeah. The tech said, and I quote, "I've never seen anything like this."
Yeah.
So, but But with gas blowbacks and everything like that, and even with like your pistols and the CO2 pistols and your AEGs and stuff, just get a rough idea of how they work. It's useful to know. You don't have to take the whole fucking thing apart and completely dismantle everything. But if it's a case of you've got a jam and you need to unclog that, you should be able to deal with that without, opening up the entire rifle.
Yeah.
It might be a case of just removing the upper or moving the barrel out of the way, or kind of just dismantling parts of it. And if you don't know how to do it, you don't feel comfortable enough doing it, then there are lots of people out there that will be able to help you and guide you through that. As well as online tutorials and the like, YouTube is your friend on that instance. There's so much stuff out there. And failing that, ask Andy. Andy knows what he's doing. So if you bump into Andy, he can give you a hand.
Not with AEGs. I hold my hands up to AEGs. I'm like, it's just weird, magical little wizards that go into AEGs. I don't understand them. I don't particularly like them. But gas is just stupid simple. No, I can deal with that. I
like how you say I don't like them, and yet either side of you literally have two AEGs.
But when was the last time you saw these come out?
Yes, true. True. No, that's fair.
Also as well. They weigh a ton.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a place for all of it. I mean, I know I now own two gas blowback rifles that I'm likely to use. I have had a gas blowback rifle in the past, but just didn't get on with it. And now I own two that I am teaching myself to keep my eyes open with when I fire. It turns out it's actually a lot.
AKM.
It's better with a rifle, it turns out, because there's more space between my face and where shit's happening. Basically, I think the problem is where I've got my MP9, everything's a lot closer to my fucking face. So, when that's a problem. That's blowing back right into my eyeball.
That's when
that's when I have a problem.
Holding it the wrong way, mate.
Yeah. Well, you've got to do the reverse aim, don't you? Right. So one of the legends again I wanted to kind of branch into is BBs basically embedding themselves in your skin. So this is a real thing that does happen. Now, whether it should or not is a different argument, and obviously it's to do with how I don't know. There's a number of ways and things that this can happen, but there are situations.
How much oosh gets put in your face?
Yes, basically. I mean, ultimately, if you've got a rifle that's spec'd up for firing 450, 500 feet per second, and they've taken a shot, and for whatever reason, with the MED and everything like that, you've just for some reason crossed straight in front of them. That is still a tiny projectile traveling very quickly towards potentially some soft, fleshy parts of you.
Yeah, even Pegasus will back me up on this. You can have a weapon that's under 350 FPS, literally firing 0.25s, and it will still go in your skin. Yeah,
and we are talking, when we say in the skin, we are not just talking obviously embedding or whatever. We're talking like literally disappearing, and then you have to kind of pop it out like a zit. These things do happen. It is quite rare, I would say. I've witnessed it happen in the number of years I've played Airsoft, but not regularly. And we're not putting the video on Pegasus.
Why not?
Regardless of whether, because it's gross. We're not putting that up.
We're not monetized, are we? So it doesn't matter.
I don't care if we're monetized. I don't want to throw up again.
Fuck you, YouTube. I want to put it
on. But there's a number of situations like that on YouTube. If you want to just Google it, just basically put in popping BB. No, don't, Ash, stop sending it to me. I'm not putting it. I'm not playing it.
Put it on.
No, we're not playing it. It's gross.
We might play it at the end. I'll work on it.
No, we won't. That's it. But, there is a risk of injury. And what I would say as well is that, you can very, very significantly damage yourself while playing Airsoft and not realise. I had a situation myself where I tripped and basically landed on a large pile of rubble and concrete and gave myself a pulmonary edema, which was basically a big old. My leg just swelled up. Basically, it became very fluidy, and it kind of went down the route where I had to go to A&E because I thought I had a blood clot. But to me, that was just I'd just fallen over, and it was only like a few days later I was like, oh, my leg shouldn't be that squishy.
I've got a bone
I kind of realised
in my knuckle that you can feel now, and that's from airsoft. Got shot in the finger, little bone shard.
Yeah.
That's it. That'll yeah. It all depends on where it hits you. Like if centre mass, it tends not to really hurt as much. You're wearing a jumper or t-shirt, some sort of webbing or some sort of equipment. Nose, like skimming the cross of your nose. I've had the couple of layers of skin taken off my nose, and I thought I had a nosebleed, but it wasn't. It was actually literally bleeding from the tip. It can be a very painful game.
I've had a BB slice my ear open.
Yeah, and in your ear.
I literally just caught me right on the whatever that bit of your ear is called. It just sliced straight through, basically. So it is a very dangerous sport on that respect, and you do need to be careful. So please do not see it as just, oh yeah, I'm just out having a laugh and I don't need to worry about myself. You do, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your worst airsoft injury? This is again a slight tangent, but just from the legend, I guess our personal legends and tales. What's the kind of worst injury that you sustained?
I broke my wrist. Not as bad as Pegasus ice skating, per se. No, yeah, literally, I had a fracture on my. Well, I don't know what that bit is. That jointy bit there fractured, but yeah. Other than that, it's just been scrapes and cuts and lacerations.
So you literally just fell over, or
no? Ran into a wall.
All right.
It was a little half wall, and I've ran round the corner to try and get the drop on someone, and there's a little half wall there, and I've gone down to get my sidearm, and as I was running round, and I've literally just gone whack straight onto the wall as I was running round, and I was like, well, that hurt. And then it all swelled up, and I was like, oh, that's not a problem. So I put my glove on to try and stop the swelling, and then carried on playing one-handed with my pistol. Yeah. and then the next day it was like blue. I was like,
I might need to see someone about that.
I was like, better go and see someone. Or I don't know which one actually hurt more, to be honest, but horsefly bites. The fuck invented horseflies. Got bitten on my arm, and literally from my arm downwards, I looked like I had a webbed hand. All my fingers had swollen up, couldn't move anything the next day. I think that hurt more than my broken wrist. And that was just an insect. So, and that was out. That was out on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, insects are an absolute nightmare. I mean, like, I've had countless wasp stings, spider bites, and just from various random places that we've been into. I'm not playing your injury, Pegasus. I get it. You had to pop a BB out of you. I'm not playing it.
We will get permission from Ash, and we will post it on a couple of our socials.
Yeah, we'll put it somewhere. But other than the pulmonary edema that I gave myself at Longmoor, probably the worst injury I had was I was basically assaulting out of a doorway, and then it was a skirmish day, so it was like just a lot of firefighting in doorways and stuff. And I thought I'd get proper sneaky, so I got down on the ground and sort of crawled out with my pistol to try and take some pot shots around the corner. At the same time that someone threw a Mark V into the room, and it basically went off on my arm. I still have the scar. You can just about see it. Basically, it's sort of there.
No, the reflection on there.
Yeah, it might not be the clearest, but I mean, it was originally like that, and it is sort of shrunk down over time. But yeah, that's a proper burn from a Mark 5. And that wasn't me like trying to get all like, oh, I'm going to dive on it to save people, or trying to lob it out of the way. It was just that I was just awkwardly in the position of the Mark 5 at the time where it went off. So please, it is dangerous. It is a dangerous sport.
I think the worst injury I've seen, like myself face to face, was a friend of ours was using the metal blue British training grenades, and he'd bought an adapter for it to use a 12 gauge blank, and he'd bought some high powered 12 gauge blanks. So they were like, I can't remember what the grain limit was on them, but they were pretty packed. And if anyone's used the British training grenades, it's literally just like a small pin, and he's got the pin caught on something, and the grenade has gone off on his chest, completely blown his chest rig to pieces, and his whole torso, like literally from belly button, like from collarbone all the way down to like his hips, was just black and and bruised. That's probably the worst injury I've physically seen. And then you got that knobhead that decided to pick up a thrown grenade and he blew his hand up. That everyone saw. Don't pick up grenades, children. Like that goes for life as well. That should be I mean, like you say it, and then you think, well, that should be like quite a standard life rule.
Yeah, I mean, there was the guy during the I don't want to make this a political thing about Gaza and Israel and but there was the story about the chap who was in the bunker festival or something like that. There was a load of people in the bunker, and basically whoever was attacking. I don't want to get into the political, because I appreciate that there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that it wasn't Hamas and then it was Hamas and stuff like that. But whoever it was basically lobbing grenades into this bunker, and the guy's basically just lobbing them back out again, trying to save the people inside that bunker. So
I mean,
that's a very rare reason.
I mean, it's not often
in airsoft, don't pick up grenades. But there's all sorts of things that I've seen. I mean, Silly Gilly, I think it was Silly Gilly dislocated his shoulder at an event, AI 500. I've seen someone take a tag round to the head, whereby they again just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone's fired a tag round, probably not at 45 degrees. They've probably fired it laterally, and it's just literally gone straight into the side of someone's head, as they're just sort of crossing across the path in front without knowing. And
there was that.
There's all sorts of things that can happen.
Someone shot a tag round at him, not at the vehicle.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
They threw a tag round at his face, and his face was just one of the players' dads that go regularly to Rift. He was playing at the jail at Gaul, and someone shot a tag round through the building, broke his arm. Which is just like, I can understand people getting carried away, but in my mind, tag rounds should be like highly, like you should pass an intelligence check before you should buy it. Like mortars, they're not too bad. You have them in a mortar. It's got like it naturally stays at 45. You can't.
But people don't know, is it? That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, I know the Blackgate launchers and stuff allow you to shoulder fire stuff, which is a different argument itself. And you can fire those at 45 degrees, but people don't. But people don't do it. So it's I think there's an awful lot of intelligence tests that should be applied to things.
But this is the thing that sort of grinds my gears a little bit, is that the people that buy like physical, like, because technically the mortar is a firearm. Like you're putting a black powder explosive in a tube that you are shooting at someone. Like it's a firearm. The tag round is pretty much the same. It's a compressed projectile in a tube that you're shooting at something. And all of them can be used safely. but you get 3 or 4, and I'm going to like wankers that can't use them properly, and that's it. It goes for everyone. The prime example is the 40 mic grenades.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing wrong with them. I've literally stood in front of one and I've had one shoot at me. Yeah, it hurts a little bit, but no more than like anything else. But they were designed to be a moss cart that would have further range than a normal moss cart. Like, we all know moss carts travel 10 meters and then like they're rolling at your feet. Yeah. Whereas this was designed to basically shower at 30, 40 meters. But then people were like, well, it's a moss cart, I can shoot it at close range. Well, it's not. No, like, it doesn't work like that. Like, so because of the few, the many have now lost out on something that could change the gameplay massively for Airsoft.
I think there's personally, I think there's other things with the 40 mic. So I mean, for example, just the sheer amount of BBs it's firing at effectively because I mean a single moss cart round, for example, is designed to be like you fire it and then that cloud goes all at once, whereas the 40 mics were obviously a continuous stream, weren't they, coming out?
Yeah, but like after about 5 meters, it was not a continuous. Like, it's not. It doesn't stay in a stream. Like, after about 5 meters.
But I think the point is it's just we talked briefly when you were trying to join the show earlier about full auto. Like, you could just run around an airsoft site if it allows full auto, just constantly firing as you're running. You know, you've got a big ass box bag on your rifle, and potentially you're going to hit more, but you're just going to piss everyone off because it's just a knobby way to basically play. And I personally feel like the 40 mic, I couldn't see a practical application for it.
Yeah. You know, have you ever gone up against one?
I have, yeah. And I have no issue with it as a device per se, but there's no, for me, and this kind of blows into the, I guess, the MilSim aspect. I like playing with realistic scenarios and situations, whereas there is nothing that I can see that is an underbarrel launched device that basically just fires a stream of projectiles like that.
Yeah. I mean, birdshot.
Yeah, but birdshot again is
yeah, but you got
to me the moss cart rounds, but the moss cart rounds aren't sufficient for that. If that makes sense. So it's not that the 40 mic doesn't replace it. I know what you're saying, but to me, it's not quite the same. And I just, because it's that kind of like, it almost sounds like a warthog when it's firing off. The one I heard anyway, because it was the longer one that I've seen. So to me, it was just, But we're not going to, let's not dig into the realms of stuff like that. But I mean, ultimately, you know, I can't even remember what the fucking original myth was we were talking about now. Right, a heavier gun means that it is better quality.
I'm going to say 98% of the time that is true. There is always going to be a shit gun out there that is supposedly well made. But I think 90% of the time, if you're running real wood, real metal, like real thick metal that gives you the weight, you've got heavier springs and things in there, and like your overall platform becomes a heavier weight, then personally, I think you are starting off on a decent platform. Yeah,
I agree. I think, you know, ultimately there are situations where you can have super lightweight. I mean, like speed softers, for example. You know, they're not wanting particularly high weight weapons, because ultimately, you know, they're running around. They want a nice lightweight loadout, and that's why, you know, you tend to see, I think they probably go for pistols and, you know, little box mags on the pistols and stuff like that, because they're agile. They can duck and dive around. They're not going to be running around with a 249, are they? Let's be fair. Although I would like to see that. I've never seen a speed softer with a 249. That would be insane.
PKM. Give them the PKM.
Yeah.
If there is a speed softer that listens to us randomly, hit me up. I will lend you the PKM and I'll put it in single shot and you can run around Blackstone. I will even pay for your ticket to do it for the full day. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, there are obviously, you can obviously get sort of lightweight builds and stuff like that. But I do think that you're right. And for the majority, the body, I mean, the internals of an airsoft rifle don't necessarily need to match the externals, if that makes sense. So you can buy a decent shell but have crap internals. Doesn't mean it's the heavier shell doesn't mean it's a better airsoft rifle on that front. But the heavier shell and the stronger body and stuff like that means it's going to be more robust, and it's the equivalent of just you upgrade the internals and then that will make that a good rifle in that respect.
And I think also as well, like not always, but most of the time, the build quality of the outside of a weapon, if it is heavier, the chances are it's been put together better, so there'll be less rattle.
Well, there's less for it to go wrong, isn't there? Like there's more material to attach together. There's, if things are properly welded and glued or whatever like that, then there's just more bulk to the thing that means it's not going to fucking fall apart the first time you run into a tree or something like that. Pegasus says you've just described VFC, Mike. Yeah. I wasn't going to start naming particular brands, but thanks, Pegasus.
That's all right.
But I mean, that's the thing. And there are some. I mean, I really like. I've got my super lightweight M249, which
I'll say toy gun.
It is a toy gun. It is a toy gun. I'll let you have that. I bought it more just for the aesthetic of it having an M249, basically, because I wanted to have a platform which I really like. My Stoner. Then Mark 63 G&P Stoner, but there's a lot of events where we do sort of more modern, realistic day loadouts, and I just wanted the 249, and it was what I could easily buy at the time. It was lightweight. I thought, well, this would be good. Ultimately, I can add weight to it if I need to running around, but the build quality on it is delicate. Should I say? Because the chassis on it is all just completely plastic, basically. Yeah. So there's parts of it that's shut that don't properly align, and it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite rifle. It looks cool, but it's
That's one thing that I tend to avoid. Like personally, for me, if it has a plastic body, personally for me, I just stay away from it. Because I've never known one not to have problems. Like one of my first guns, I had a SEMA AK, all plastic, and I left it lent on the back of the back of my car, like lent against it in the sun. Didn't think anything of it. Came back and I was like, "Oh, that's hot!" So I put it in the shade. Well,
corners, then.
Where the shade was, I didn't realise there was a divot. So once it had cooled down, I picked it up, and literally my AK was like that. And I went, "What am I going to do with this?" And my tech went, "It's fucked unless you want to heat it up just right again and try and bend it all back." I was like, "Oh, brilliant!" I was like,
I mean, I can name some good examples of some plastic rifles I've had. So, I mean, the G&G CM16, like the combat machine rifles, that I would always recommend those. Like, I've had one of those. I've now had it converted to a DMR, just because I transitioned away from using it. But rather than just selling it on, I thought, well, I might as well keep it. I'll use it for something else. So sort of just mixed it up with that front. But that's quite good. But you look at the likes of a P60, P60, P90s. P90s are obviously majoritively plastic. My MP9.
But in real life, they're
No, that's what I'm saying. So there are some situations where obviously you can get some decent plastic weapons, and sort of the build quality on those. So plastic as a whole doesn't automatically mean that something's shit, but
no,
there are situations where you do like I would like a little bit of metal on this.
But then that's the same thing with metal. Like you can't say that all metal or like all full metal systems that you can buy are amazing, because they're not. There's always gonna be good and bad of every sort of build and manufacturer. It's never like you're never going to be able to say yes 100%. If you bought this, it's always going to be good. There are a couple of exceptions to that, I think, but there's not many, in my opinion.
No, I mean ultimately, I would argue it's anything that's effectively die cast is going to be worse. And then you obviously look at your forged, your stamp forged, for example, and then your CNC'd and things like that, because just by the sheer mechanisms by which that thing is made, die cast products. You're talking, if you ever had an old school cap gun, that would have been your die cast metal, which is subject to potentially cracking and failure mechanisms that can just form quite quickly. So yeah. Right, just going to go through a couple of questions, most of them from Drew. There's one from Landnav Challenge. Sorry if I missed it. When is the T-shirt available? So we're working at the moment. I was saying at the beginning of the show, Andy, that we are just sort of finessing
the
designs of the T-shirts. Lovely, isn't it? It's great. So we're just kind of...
Yay! Spammer.
We're just in the process of... finessing and beta testing the T-shirts on that front at the moment, sort of tweaking them. So hopefully soon. But we just don't want to release anything sort of too early until we're all sort of tickety-boo on that front. Drew says, side question for Andy, what weight do you use with your LMGs?
On a skirmish, I use 2/8s. On a MilSim, I use 3/2s.
There you go. Drew says, I once had a major boo-boo when my Batman served tea too hot. Safe to say a lesson was learned and I got a new Batman. It made me chuckle. Drew says you should do a standalone video, firepower demo, showing people what can be delivered along with the best use. It's not a bad idea. Quite like that. Pegasus says, I want...
We should buy some ballistic gel.
or we go full NoFo. We go full NoFo and do it as cheap as possible and just use jelly.
Jelly with extra gelatine.
Because then we can eat it afterwards.
Oh, this bit's crunchy. No, I think that'd be quite interesting. If we got, I'm going to Google how much ballistic.
It can't be a lot. I mean, it's basically gelatin, isn't it?
Yeah, we can start off at like 5 meters, shoot it, get closer and closer and closer, and see what happens. I'm like, Drew, I'm on it.
Yeah. Pegasus says, I've had to deal with someone taking a knee on a piece of slate. That was an interesting man down. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's.
I'll tell you what, though. One of the main reasons that I take knee pads with me on events which have sort of hard surfaces is because for long war or anything like that, if you're running around and you take a knee on a solid surface where there are BBs rolling around, fuck, does that hurt? You go straight down on a 6mm BB that's like proper, just like it can't go down at all because it's just a proper solid surface, either concrete or hard timber floors or anything like that. Literally just that little 6mm just straight up into your knee. Absolute agony. So definitely consider knee pads on that front. Right, we're pretty much coming to the end of the show. There was one more that I wanted to talk about, which was there were two more actually.
You can buy a torso for 290 quid.
That sounds like money well spent.
Or 40 for the block.
So there's two myths. So one of these was generated by AI, which it just really freaking amused me. But the other one was shorter barrels are less accurate. So this was actually submitted in by I won't say the name, but they did submit this in, and it's just untrue. You can basically have a shorter barrel that, it almost. I mean, Ryan, for example, is a massive advocate with MWSs of having a short barrel system in there. Ultimately, it doesn't make a huge difference.
I mean, it's all. There's so many things that go into like how accurate a barrel is. It's a hard one.
I think the core premise is that ultimately a barrel. So with a rifle, if for anyone that apologies if people generally know this, but with rifles and everything like that, you kind of either get a rifle barrel or something like that. But the ammunition is trying to create that kind of spin in the barrel.
Yeah. Because
if you can get the spin on the bullet itself as it's coming out, it will basically create almost like a gyroscopic effect, which reduces the impacts of wind resistance and things like that. So you're almost improving your accuracy by having that spin effect. With a BB, you don't get that rifling within the barrel. So any friction or anything like that is potentially going to affect how that BB is now traveling. And if it's starting to kind of loop round in the barrel, potentially you're going to get to the end of the barrel and just spiral off to the right. Which is why, for example, with some setups, if you've got sort of some dirt in your barrel or anything like that, it can cause a real issue in terms of friction and sort of affecting the FPS and the accuracy and the output of your rifle. So it's not quite the same on that front. I mean, I have seen. I mean, obviously, some of the sniper platforms and things like that, if you have a longer barrel, I've seen some with better accuracy, but I don't know if that's just because ultimately they're closer to the target by the time the BB comes out the end of the rifle. So yeah, Pegasus said all stock MWS come with a 250mm. They get a decent range out of the box. So I mean, it might just be a case of just play around with it, I guess.
Yeah,
like if you've got the ability to test it.
Yeah, it's like my AKM. That came with only a 180.
Or my AKM.
No, my TM one.
Right.
That only came with like a 180 or 190 barrel, and I've stuck a 380 in there, and now I'm having nothing but problems trying to get the FPS right because I've gone for tight bore to try and get more range because obviously I was still thinking along the lines of AG, but now there's too much gas compression in the barrel, and yeah, it's causing me nothing but headaches at the moment. So there's lots of things to consider.
Yeah. Right. The last one I wanted to mention, and sorry, this probably won't laugh. You don't need eye protection if you trust your friends.
Oh, yeah, that was brilliant.
So this is the myth that you're playing with your friends. They won't shoot you in the eyes, and therefore you don't need eye protection.
No.
Just don't wear eye protection, please. Yeah. Please wear eye protection. Do not go down the route of it'll be right.
Yeah, and just if you put a magazine into your weapon and it has a BB in it, just put eye protection on. Like, even if you're shooting,
and ensure others do as well. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I've been to a number of sort of little private dues and stuff like that where you're basically there and it's a group of mates camping or whatever. It does genuinely worry me when someone just starts lighting up. And they might just be shooting off down into the woods or whatever like that, but it's still a danger. And ultimately, either put yourself way out the way so there's no risk to anybody at all, And, effectively established, that you're going to have a little kind of, right, this is our little range that we're going to be messing about on or whatever, or doing stuff. But just always treat anything that fires a projectile as a dangerous weapon, because ultimately it doesn't take much to just pop someone's. I mean, we've just talked about the fact that BB can just, pop into your skin. It's going to get into your eye a heck of a lot fucking easier. I could probably see that. So, yeah. I thought you'd frozen again.
No. I was just trying to think, and it didn't work.
Okay. No, that's fine. Right. On the show next week, we're going to be joined by the guys.
If we're doing that quickly before the end of the show, while I was faffing around at the beginning, I missed to do this at the beginning. But Mr. Tony Whitmarsh himself from Rift Airsoft messaged me earlier and said that the Shift Your Rift tickets will be going on sale on Tuesday.
Excellent.
Next week. So, and last time they sold out bloody quickly. I think they were all gone within under 12 hours. So if you are looking to purchase a ticket for Shift Your Wrists this year to see us, JBG, Empire, I think Land Nav Challenge.
If you're looking to purchase a ticket to come and see us, Jesus.
Yeah.
or attend the event and completely ignore us.
See us in person. Make sure that you are on there. Tony will be putting a post up on the Rift website of the exact time that the tickets will be going live. So if you're not a member or you like of the Facebook group, pop it on there. And as soon as it comes through, we will also share it on our social medias as well. So everyone can have access to it. I think there's only going to be like 800, 900 tickets per day. So, but we'll be there.
I've been warned.
With jumpers and t-shirts, maybe a hat.
Okay. Jesus. We will have stuff on our store. We're going to have a few stickers and bits and pieces like that. But please feel free to come along and say hello. And it'll be good to see you.
I think we'll have a weapons rack this year.
Huh?
So we can have all of these things that are on display behind us and all Mike's displayed weapons.
I'll bring the universal bayonet mount and people can have a look and see what they think.
Yeah, and they can go out and test
That's
it
already a name, by the way. I'm going to have to come up with a different name because apparently this is not a new idea. The methodology by which we have taken is a new idea. But there is already a universal bayonet mount, so I'm going to have to come up with a new name for it. So if anyone's got an idea for a different name.
The NoFo universal mounting bayonet system.
The mount bayonet universal.
The MUDs.
Yeah, so if anyone else would like to come up with an idea for a name, then please feel free to get in touch. We're joined on the show next week by the gents from Defiant. We are going to be chatting about their program of events and all the exciting things that they've got in their pipeline. So please feel free to join us Wednesday, 8:00. They've got all sorts of things coming up. If you want to get in touch with the show in advance, you can do so on an email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. You can also contact us on our own individual Instagrams at November Airsoft, at @Quartermaster, and at _Punished_1_4 Lance, who unfortunately was unable to attend this week because he is very ill. So much love, Lance. I hope not.
Mike's
much love, Lance. And I hope you feel better soon. So, in the meantime, I'm going to have the closing words this week, if that's all right. I think don't just trust everything that you hear. Do your own research. Find out about things yourself. Test, explore, undertake science, but ultimately, be safe. There you go. That was quite good. I think that's quite a good little thing. Yeah. There you go. I should do it more often. Right, in the meantime, have an absolutely cracking week. Thank you for joining us. I've been Mike. He's been Andy. That's new. Yeah. So say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye, Andy.
Have an absolutely great week. We'll speak to you soon. Ciao.
Laters, innit? Bye.